We're going to hit them very hard. I mean, I can actually say that because in that, there's very little they can do about it. It was a different group than we're dealing with. They've already apologized. But, you know, we got to smack them a little bit.
Mr. President, you want to hit back when they strike?
Will I always hit back?
Yes.
Pretty much. Yes.
Mr. President, just on a point of clarity on that, sir, is that in response to the attempted ballistic missile strike on Jordan last night? When you say it's our turn to hit back?
Yeah, I think more so that, yeah, because it was another smaller event. But no, they sent 8,000-mile-an-hour missiles at us. And fortunately, we had our people operating the greatest equipment in the world, namely the Patriot system. Think of it, 5 missiles going 8,600 miles an hour, big ones, coming right at us, and all 5 were shot down. How about that, right? Pretty good. Nobody else could do that. But
Straight from Donald J. Trump X account, the U.S. is locked and loaded and ready to go against the Islamic Republic of Iran at levels of military terror, strength, and power not seen since World War II. Despite this, we have just been asked by Iran and other Middle Eastern countries to hold off any attack in that the perimeters of a deal has been agreed to. This will include the immediate, complete, and total opening of the Hormuz Strait and an end of Iran's nuclear threat. Based on this request, I have agreed for the future benefit of the world, and likewise the survival of a successful and prosperous Iran, to cancel the attack subject to being able to commitment, get to work, everybody, and get it done. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump. Straight from his X account, he is sending threat to Iran. He has the manpower, the country power. US is locked. And this is making white Americans, they are terrified because of this. The MAGA supporters who voted for him, they are like, why?
I'm so disgusted. The Wall Street Journal is reporting that Trump has ordered a new bombing campaign against Iran, including strikes on the nation's energy infrastructure and oil refineries, with the strikes beginning as soon as this weekend and in coordination with Israel. Of course, this comes right after the D.C. visit of Netanyahu, the one who convinced Trump to start this war in the first place. And now it looks like he's convinced Trump that another round of senseless bombing, bringing even more death and destruction, will somehow force Iran to its knees. Trump, you know, has accused the Iranian diplomats of being very dishonorable to deal with. The irony is staggering. It was the United States that started this war, that killed Iran's supreme leader, that killed the very people it was negotiating with. Trump has already started a regional war, and instead of ending it, he's provoking an even wider war. He's provoking the collapse of the global economy and the political future of his own party. All for what? For Israel? You know, the American people have said no to this war. Congress has said no to this war. Yet Trump is willing to ignore both in order to do Netanyahu's bidding. Well, what would you call this? Insanity? Treason? Make your voice heard. Say no to this reckless, unprovoked, senseless war for Israel.
All right, so reporting is indicating that Donald Trump and Israel are prepared to launch massive imminent attacks against potentially Iran's energy infrastructure. Now, we've heard these stories before where Donald Trump goes out there, or they leak stories where Trump claims that he is going to bomb their energy infrastructure to oblivion or completely destroy their civilization. It's always been bluffs because he doesn't know what he's doing. This could be another bluff. This time I think he's actually going to do something. Now, whether that's full-scale blow up all of their energy infrastructure, I don't know. But the IRGC in Iran, they are extremely radical. They want to die. They want to be martyred. Okay? So threatening them with death, threatening the supreme leader with death, that's not going to do anything. Threatening their energy infrastructure, that's not going to do anything to them. They live in a theocracy. They are religious radicals. They want to die as martyrs. They will do everything they can to protect the revolution. And this is what Donald Trump, Pete Hegseth, and the rest of this ridiculous, uneducated administration don't get. They've got these preconceived notions of how Iran would react, but time and time again it shows that it's false because they didn't do any planning. There's no strategic objectives. There's no overall strategy. There's no political end game here. So what is going to happen? If we actually bomb their energy infrastructure, they're going to bomb Arab nations in the Middle East, throughout the Middle East, are going to bomb U.S. installations as well as energy infrastructure throughout the Middle East. Egypt has now been brought into the war because Iran bombed them. Saudi and the Houthis are going back and forth. So, again, we're stuck in this never-ending war with no way out because Donald Trump is a moron.
Why threats and threats and threats? You know, Donald J. Trump said that do not vote for Kamala Harris because she's gonna take the country to war. But for Donald J. sending threats every now and then, what does that say?
The United States and Israel are reportedly preparing to do their biggest and harshest bombing campaign against Iran that we have seen so far during this war, and this could happen even as soon as today or in the next couple of days, because right now Donald Trump is weighing his options on what to do next. Now, this is going to target energy infrastructure in Iran, so the damage here is going to be pretty extensive, and of course, this is just going to be even more war crimes that our government and also Israel would be committing. Now, coincidentally enough, this major escalation could happen just right after Trump had a meeting with Benjamin Netanyahu just a few days ago, pretty recently. Now, that meeting with Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, that happened after Trump actually paused his strikes on Iran so he could go back to Iran and try and, do these peace talks with them, which is just laughable because every time he, wants to do a peace deal, he just fucks up everything and starts this war again. So, again, I think it's ridiculous in the first place. But what this shows me is that Benjamin Netanyahu and also Israel, well, of course, even though Trump is the guy that makes the decisions here, well, they're obviously pushing for these kinds of things to happen as well. It is just more of an example why we do not need a government of another country, right? In this case, it's Israel, influencing the decisions that happen here. But regardless, this war on Iran, whether or not the United States was coordinating with Israel or not, it's completely unjustifiable. Multiple war crimes have been committed. Trump is a war criminal, and every single person in his administration should also be investigated and put on trial for war crimes, including him as well, and also Benjamin Netanyahu.
Let's talk about the Iran war and Trump's latest failed strategy that he's attempted in the past. That is threatening war crimes. He's talking about, according to CNN, NBC, ABC, and Wall Street Journal, probably as part of a coordinated leak campaign, to attack power plants all across the country. Now, you cannot do that unless there are very specific criteria met under the law of armed conflict, under the Department of Defense use of force manual, on and on. It has to be, a definite military advantage. It has to be not disproportionate to the civilian harm that's going to be caused. And obviously, attacking power plants in this broad manner as a means of coercion is blatantly illegal. But let's look deeper at this situation, shall we? Because what you have is an effort to try and threaten a regime that doesn't care about its people. A regime that knows if it loses this war and loses its grip on power, it's going to get the Gaddafi treatment, okay? So they're not going to sit here and fold just like they did in the past. But the most key thing to understand is that they have escalation dominance. They can send ballistic missiles, drones, and other weapons at 40% of the world's oil and gas refineries that sit just across the Persian Gulf and absolutely crash the world economy if they so choose. They can knock out the drinking water for 100 million people in the desert in the summer if they so choose. So if Trump wants to play this game, it's going to backfire spectacularly. I think he's just desperate and he only means to threaten, but who knows? He's an idiot.
The question was about Trump's war, the military conflict that Trump chose to launch on February 28th after repeatedly promising Americans there are not going to be, we're going to get out of wars and certainly not going to get into any new ones. Walt's answer is, well, there have been tensions with Iran for 47 years. Now, by that logic, the administration could keep this war going forever and go, this was a 47-year-old war. Trump was just president for a little bit. Trump has nothing to do with it. And of course, we all recognize how absurd and completely deranged that is. Now, strategy, it's all options are on the table. I'm not going to get ahead of the president on timeline. These are all Washington phrases that are used when they want maximum freedom to keep escalating and escalating, but never telling you what they are actually planning. Now, remember how this was sold. We would have decisive action for a few weeks. America would win. Everybody's weak, everybody's incompetent, but Trump is strong and he knows how to impose peace through strength. We had weeks, they become months. We supposedly won it, 60 times by now? And the end of the year may not even be the end of this thing. And the administration officials are refusing to tell Americans whether it could continue for years. The fact that they aren't saying, of course it's not going to last years, tells us everything we need to know. Now, then Kristen Welk answer. Now, I hope, if military recruiters are being honest, I hope that it is true that members of the military understand that there are risks to serving. But that doesn't give presidents permission to send them into pointless wars with no timeline, no clearly defined objective, no explanation of when do we get to come home? When is it over? The troops accept the risk of defending the country. But that doesn't mean you give Donald Trump a blank check to gamble with their lives because he promised a quick war and has no plan for what to do now.
What is his agenda? Is the agenda to start another world war? Is the agenda only to send threats? Is the agenda to take the business of oil to conquer? What is the agenda of Donald J. Trump? Now, MAGA voters who voted for peace, who voted for Jay because they wanted that peace, because Jay told them, you know what, don't vote for this because you will fall into this. What is happening right now? And this is causing a lot of chaos along America. Economy is going down because some countries, they are like, we can't work with this because Donald J. Trump is known of going against the MOUs, the contracts, the cancels and cancels. That is the news that is up here around today. What do you think?